welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you. So my frequent subscribers, welcome back to the channel. So you all had a great, happy Easter for all you guys who do celebrate. I do hope you guys enjoyed your holiday. So anyway, this specific video is being recorded on Monday, April 21st at 1:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as of when I am recording this specific video. I just got done doing a video recording. It's already uploaded and posted. If you want to go check that out, the video before this one. I asked my guys today, after that video, I'm like, what should I cover next? Cause I'm kind of like in a brain fog right now. I don't know what to cover. They're like, can you just like cover like what's going on in the prison? I'm like, okay, I'll cover that. I've been avoiding that question for quite some time. It has now come to the time where I do actually have to sit down and actually cover that content. So that is what this video is going to be all about. It's covering what is going on in the prison camp, not only in Guantanamo Bay, but also what is going on in El Salvador. Now, if you have not watched my other videos in the past in regards to how the United States is going to be remembered, I will put the link in the description below and also at the end of the video. But in that video, I briefly took a viewpoint from a perspective, 300 years, 100 years, 75 years, 50, and 5. And what has been consistent almost until after the 100-year mark is that the United States at this very point in time is not remembered for the economy, the failing economy, not remembered for that, but it's remembered for the human rights violation that has occurred under immigration. And that is the key kicker, and that kind of frightens me the most. And we're going to take a quick look and we're going to take a deep dive and find out what else is undergoing and what is brewing there. Now, before we do start this video is just for entertainment purposes only and for LA's purposes only, as well, as you all know. Now, some of you guys have been actively trying to donate, so I did provide a donation link per your request. However, I will not be doing membership at this point in time. I will find another way at another time to do it. But as of right now, we're not going to go ahead and do that. So I want to say thank you for you guys who've been loving, very kind, very supportive, very engaging with the content and some formality. You can help the content and the YouTube channel by liking, comments, and subscribing. And the bell icon and engaging with the content overall really helped out the channel tremendously. Alright, so let's go ahead, let's begin. I don't want to waste your time. Just want to kind of give you a quick overview. In the next video, I'm kind of getting energy that I should start covering King Charles. We're going to cover him in another video sometime either tonight or tomorrow. Alright, so let's go ahead, let's begin. Let's see what's going on here. I'm trying to come in with a clear mind, a clear set of view, and we go from there. How do you suggest we do this, Spirit? How do you suggest we do this? Okay, so they're telling me to take the Rider-Waite Tarot deck and the American Eclipse deck, so we're going to use both of these today. Alright, so Spirit Angels, tell me about what is going on in terms of the camps, or the prison camps that you were talking about. You're telling me to cover in today's video. Can you tell me a little bit more about this information, Spirit? So tell me this is the answer. Okay, at least we have that. So let's go ahead and let's take the American Eclipse. What else do we need to know, Spirits and Angels? What else do we need to know? Okay. The bottom of the deck is a lack of foundation, 10 of Wands. Right here, and we have here at the top of the deck is the Strength, number 11. Okay. Interesting, it comes up as 2 video suggestions by my guys. So like, oh, Chris, you have to cover it. I'm like, okay, I'll cover it. Might as well. Alright, so let's take a look. Let's find out what is going on, and let's go from there. Alright, so the first card that comes in, and this is for the camps in general, the prison camps. The first card that comes in, it comes in as reversed. This is the Four of Swords. And the Four of Swords is the original intention. The original intention was not to do what is going on now. So, whatever it is, either it's appearing as if it's innocent and it's just blocking people off for criminal activity, or it's a little bit more sinister. But regardless, the Four of Swords is telling me the original intention, or the intention of how it's supposed to be viewed, it's seen as not end all be all. It's supposed to be like a holding area, a holding cell. Give me 1 minute. I am going to turn the light on because I feel like this might be a little too dark for a lot of you. All right. Sorry about that. So, now that you guys can be able to see the cards a little bit better, going back into the Four of Swords, and the Four of Swords reverse is a very interesting card. It's an interesting card not only because of what I just said, but also because it gives that false impression that there's no bad intention except the intention to put somebody in a jail cell until they serve their time for criminal activity. But that is not what it's telling me. It's telling me there's a little bit more sinister here. This is the appearance. It's just the facade. Right? That was the intention. The next card that comes in is the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups is somebody walking in reverse, walking backwards, And this is the cup that's heading in this direction. It's walking towards the intention. So it's not coming in with an idea, not coming in with a projection or something coming forward, not a proposal to handle a situation or issue, but instead it's going back to this, again, this false impression, something more sinister. Now, we do have here on the last card here on the right side, we have the Knight of Pentacles. Again, another thing that's not being done correctly. These are all intention. The fact that you have two horses here, you have a white and you have a black, and they're both facing in the direction of the past, which is this side here is the past, while this side is the future. This tells me that something is going back to the way things were done in the past, the way things were handled in the past, which means that the United States had not only done this before, but so has other countries. And we're going to find out in this video what the intention of these camps in the first place. Now, for those of you guys who have been with me for quite some time, specifically in the beginning of my YouTube channel, I briefly spoke about my experiences of becoming a psychic and how I opened up my third eye and all those things. And one of those videos, I spoke briefly about how in the past, when my third eye was open, I kept seeing faces in camps in the United States. It felt like the U.S. was Germany, and it just felt like faces in the camps. And you will see me say it in one of the videos in the past, and the earlier the video, the more likely that you're going to hear that. But I kept seeing faces, and I kept saying, no, it felt like not Asian, but it felt like Latino, Asian. It felt like a mix of people, a melting pot, if you will. It starts to make a lot more sense now. This means that for those of you guys who are saying, oh, it's just going to be Latinos, blah, 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 it's going to be a whole bunch of people. It's not just going to be Latinos. It's not just going to be Mexicans. It's not going to be just Venezuelans or El Salvadorians. There's a whole bunch of people all plunged into one area. And I always saw the U.S. going towards fascism. I always saw the U.S. going in that direction. And I even talked about, briefly, I think in one of my interviews, where I did interview one of the psychic tarot card readers. She was interviewing me, and I was talking about my experiences, but I also talked about how, and I did have a video of this, and I'll put the link in the description below, is what I saw, the video, and it's about like a nuclear war or whatnot, but in that video, I briefly talked about how I kept getting energy and information in regard to how, what's it called? I remember running down a hall of a governmental building, and you see the American seal, and it says the United States of America. And all of a sudden, overnight, it changed to Hell Hydra. And Hell Hydra was the Nazi version in the comic books of the Marvel series with the superheroes of fascism. But what's interesting as well is that when that dream came to me, it came in 2008, which is 4 or 3 years prior to the first release of Captain America in the movie theater series. So I was not a big fan of superheroes prior to then. I am now, but back then, now. And that's what's really interesting and what's really important because it really highlights the messages that I'm getting. Now, going back into the reading again, we have the Four of Swords here reversed, followed by the Fool card in reverse. And this is talking about here someone throwing away their vote. Someone throwing away their vote. When you have destruction at the polling booth, you have people just thrown away, just don't care, they're not engaged. They're not engaged with the issue. They don't see this issue as a problem, but it's reverse. The people can't vote with conscience. They can't vote because they don't know what's really going on. It's the facade. There's a facade not only at the voting booth, but there was a facade that was created, an image, a false sense of insecurity that led them to vote for security, not realizing that they were voting against their own interests. At the same time, you have the Knight of Cups reversed. The Knight of Cups reversed is that idea going back to the way things were in the past, right? And this is the world. The world has been here before. This is not the first time the world has experienced this. And ironically enough, if you look closely, the number 21 represents the world. What is today? So today is Monday, April 21st, 1:42 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. What are the odds of that? What are the odds that this card specifically comes up? Now, it falls underneath the Knight of Cups. It indicates to us, and it further confirms the information that we've been getting, that we're going backwards in some way. But what's in the center? What's in the center? Well, this is the Earth, right? You have the United States and you have South America. But what do you have in the center? You have El Salvador, right? Now, underneath the Knight of Pentacles, the money, right? Going also back to the past, right here. This is the dark cheap. And here you have it, the Nine of Swords. And the Knight of Swords reversed is telling me here that there is not as much struggle, but it's more the mental consciousness is what the issue is. So this is more the physical. This is more the mental, if you will. This is more the mental. There's a problem with going back to the past mentally, right? Remember I talked about how a lot of people, a lot of countries, a lot of leaders are so fixated on going back to the past that because they can't realize or create a future that they themselves want to see the world in. Because they can't. That's just not how they're wired. They don't want to see the world progress. They want to see it go backwards. Because in the end, it's all not rooted in an ambition, but it's rooted in childhood. It's rooted in the desire to create what felt the most secure for you. That is what's in the mind of these people. This mind, the thing that's going on in this world right now, it's not because of evil intent, but it's because of the childhood being the most secure during that time period. So, for example, Donald Trump's most secure time period would be roughly around the time of fascism. Because in that point in time, he felt like he could connect to his father on a more deeper level than just, say, somebody of today, where he didn't have that connection. That's why he desired going back to that time. And it's all about trauma and inability, ineffectively enabled and unable to heal back childhood trauma. That is why all these leaders take us backwards, never forward. You ever notice that? There's very few leaders that ever take us forward. There's always a whole bunch of them that always take us backward. Now, with that being said, we also have here judgment, right? And I talked about this before, and I will find the video and I will re-upload it. But in that video, I talked about what was going to happen in 2020, and a lot of people were kind of confused. They were like, no, the 2020 election is going to be the most important election of our lifetime. And I told you guys, before that election, I said, no, it will not be the most important election of your lifetime. I said the 2024 election will be the most important important one of your entire lifetime. That is particularly because those who have voted a very specific way, voted for goodness or evil, it's essentially rooted in how you choose to vote. Who you choose to vote for will be the timeline that you yourself will witness. Right, so if you're, a Latino and you voted for Republican, then chances are you're likely to experience the darkness of that. You're likely to experience the negativity, right? But if you are a Latino and you voted for Harris, for example, you might experience more positivity. And I said this many times before, that the 2020 election, it was already pre-decided. You already know who was going to win. The electorate was already decided years in advance based on historical evidence and historical proof. But for 45, though, in 2024, that was rooted on you. That was rooted in your lifetime, your own consciousness, your soul conscious level. Because this is the first election, and it's the only first election ever where people will have to go out and vote based on their own moral compass. The first election ever. It will be only the last election ever where people actually had the choice to make a decision of who they want as a leader. That's what's really interesting, is that when I spoke to Spirit was telling me, no, all these people who were in position of power were meant to be here. They were meant to lead. They were meant to be president. We didn't really have a choice on who we picked. But the 2024 election, that was different. That was an election where we actually had the free choice of will, 100%. But with 100% of that free choice of will also go to those who abuse that free choice of will and make sure that they themselves can get who they want as their president. But if you voted for Harris, you voted for Trump, whatever you vote for, you will experience what you voted for. That's the thing. You will experience what you have voted for. What you went in with your intention, and when you cast that ballot, is what you're going to get back. And that is what this judgment card is saying. It's saying that what you cast is what you shall receive. And the next card that comes in is the Two of Swords. And here's the boogeyman. All of us are sleeping like this right now. All of us are sleeping like this. For some of you guys, the boogeyman is the idea that you voted the wrong way and you realize you messed up. The others is feeling like, something is breathing down your neck and like you just can't speak clearly. But that is when Spirit is telling you it's okay to speak clearly. It's okay to communicate. Even if the risks outweigh the benefit, the thing is that you can create the most change, even if you yourself have to sacrifice everything. Right? On the top of the deck here is saying make sure you have the strength. Make sure you have the strength to stand in opposition against those of the oppression. Now remember, a lot of people are married to police officers and all those people. They themselves will have to succumb to two different outcomes. Those will have to either choose to do what's right, or they will have to be succumb to those of the darker, lower vibrational energies. And this is what it's saying here, is that you have to choose your destiny. Do you choose to just do something just because it's your job and you're getting paid? Or do you choose to stand for your moral compass? Because in the end, money cannot be brought with you beyond the realm. But your moral complexity and those choices that you made, those guilt, they go with you. They go with you everywhere. We see it all the time. We see it with people who are unable and unable to pass on. Because they are holding to the energies and the frequencies here, they need that healing. They can't find that healing. That's what the strength card is. Would you rather be able to pass on after you die naturally and be able to go into where your next phase of life is? Or would you rather be stuck here because of a choice you decide to make just for something, a monetary gain, which you can always get, but you can never get back your moral? That's why it's just so important. The bottom of the deck, though, when you look at it from a different perspective, you have the Ten of Swords. The Ten of Wands. And the Ten of Wands in reverse, this is a person here with a foundation, trying to build a foundation. This is somebody on a wheelchair, but he's unable to get up because he is paralyzed or unable to walk on his own. He needs an assistant. But you can kind of see how he's been pushed away. He's been avoided. The whole idea and the whole understanding of the prison system is that it doesn't really count for a lot of what our world is. And it takes into matters that's like, oh, there's one size, one fit all. But really it's saying here that it's not one size fit all. Life is not one size fit all. And therefore, how can you expect this? But it's reversed. And it's reversed for one specific reason. And it's reversed because this is saying here that there is a foundation that's being built long term that will ensure the transitionity of those who trying to be able to get ahead with the circumstances of the life that they have been given. So there is going to be a change that's coming. The question is, will a lot of us witness it? I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. But what I can tell you is let your own morals outweigh the complexities and the question that you have in regard to money, because that will dictate where you go from beyond the physical realm and into the spiritual realm. I've always said many times that there is this election, this 2024 election, was going to be a very defining election. And lo and behold, it is. It really is a very defining election. It really determines who we are as people, who we are as an American, who we are at the very core of our being. Our mindset, our experiences, who we view as people, even. Right? There are many of those who have been unfortunately not able to think for themselves, that they are not awake. And they themselves think that they are awake. But they're really not. Because if you are awake, you should be able to think for yourself and to be able to see others as human. But they don't. They don't. And they went out yesterday celebrating a white guy for Easter. They just went out there and celebrated a white guy for Easter, not knowing the true historical significance of Easter, what it really meant. Because it's all about coming together and loving one another, no matter who and what you are. But instead, they took that message and they whitewashed it to the point where those people are unable and unable to see the real truth of it all. They're unable to see it. And that's what's really sad, is that, despite all this Easter, people are saying that he's risen. No, he didn't. Because if Jesus really risen, then you yourself would be good party. You would be loving. You would be kind. You would be caring. But you're not that. You haven't represented that. You haven't done that because you did it out of not because you wanted to help others. You did it because you wanted to feel some sort of, oh, look at me, I'm doing the right thing, I'm feeding the poor man. But just like life is not like the influencer. You're not an influencer. You don't go out there and just say, look at me, I'm taking care of this poor person, but you're doing it with the wrong intention. You're not helping the person just because of the goodness of your heart. You're you're helping the person because you think that you're going to have a lot more to benefit from that. But remember, you cannot be a deceptor to all that is. You cannot deceive the good. Because the good will see right through it. Because remember, they see intention, they read energy, they know emotion, they know your thoughts. Go in with good thoughts, go in with good intention. When you make choices, make choices of the good. And ask yourself, am I doing this because I'm doing it from the goodness of my heart, or am I doing it because someone is watching? Because if somebody's watching, normally it's never because it's any good. Right? Like for example, you go into your job and you're being told that you have to work, right? And you have to clean, you have to do this, do that, do this, but you feel overworked. When the boss is not around, you're more relaxed, you're more reserved, you're able to do things at your own pace. But when the boss is in the room, you're working like a maniac because you're trying to ensure that, oh, you look on your best, you look your best because you don't want to be fired or whatever. That's the whole idea. The whole concept is that when we feel like we are being watched, we are more fake and not as genuine as those who just do it from the goodness of the heart, whether they're being washed or not. So again, when we talk about the theory and understanding of Isha, the takeaway from it is really to love your neighbor regardless of who you are and what you are. And don't be beholden to the fictionality of the story that they told you, because remember, the story of Jesus was a very specific one. And it is very, in essence, very real. But at the same token, it's also very fake. So remember, know your history. Jesus was not black. He was a Jew. He was black. I mean, he was not white. Excuse me. For some reason, I said he was not black. He was black. He's a Jew. He comes from the Middle East. He's Middle Eastern. He was not white. But it doesn't make him any less important to you just because you're white or you're different. The whole message of it is that Jesus was awoken. He was spiritual. He was psychic. He was intuitive. That's the thing that they don't tell you, is that he was actually one of us. He was just one of us. But they don't tell you that. They whitewash his history. They whitewash everything. So the whole takeaway that I want you to take away from this is go with good intention. And this is particularly, I'm talking not only for you, but I'm also talking to those who worked in the police academy, who are a part of ICE, to maybe in some way allow you to be able to take back your power, take back your thought. That what you're seeing here, just because it's a job, just because it's money, remember one thing and one thing only, that your life, your power, you have the control, you have the destiny. And I want to talk about this time where I met this person. So actually, let me write this down. Okay, so I had let me show you. Because the only way you guys are going to understand why I know all this and why it's so important, well, let me tell you, it's very important, and this is why. Back then, I was doing personal readings on my YouTube channel, right? And on my YouTube channel, there was somebody who messaged me, a subscriber messaged me, and she goes, I think my ex-husband is possessed. And I say, okay, interesting. So let's see what we can do there. Lo and behold, this guy comes through the screen into my room where my studio is. As of right now, you guys haven't seen my studio in quite some time. But he was standing right behind me on this side right here. And I see him, I see flashes of who he is, I see like darkness, but then I see like a little light, like a little flashlight shining up and down him. And you can see that he was wearing a black leather coat, black boots, he was wet. He was wet, he was very dirty, whatever. He smelled like cigarettes, alcohol, he was drunk, but he wasn't angry. And I understood it. I took it from a different perspective. I knew that I wasn't scared. It was not meant for me to be scared of. But yet, this guy was sitting here with immense anger, very, very hateful. But then I just sat there and I understood what was happening. And from that point on, this individual, and I want you to take this as a lesson, he stood there and he was telling me what happened. And he goes, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at anybody. I don't hate anybody. But I'm mad at what I've done and what I've become. And I said, okay. And remember, I talked about how he had a leather jacket. He had smelled like cigarettes. He smelled like alcohol and all those things. He was a Nazi, right? He was a Nazi. But he was telling me the story about what happened, how he became what he became. It's an actually very sad but also interesting story. What happened was he was saying that he waited 84 years for me. This was a couple years ago, so probably about 87 now. He's already into the light. But we're going to talk about that. He was stuck in purgatory. He was stuck here seeing everybody live their life, but he's unable and unable to go and step into the light because he wasn't allowed to because of what happened, what he did. And what he told me was prior to the initiation of World War II, apparently there was a battle, some sort of war that was going on in Poland around the time that Germany was taking it over or whatnot, or like some sort of country towards Poland, maybe Czechoslovakia. They would set up a concentration camp. I think it might have been Auschwitz, if I'm correct. And he was saying here that one day he just moved to Germany a long, long time ago. Maybe his family did or whatnot. He was just living a normal, average, ordinary life. He wasn't involved in politics in any way, in any form. But what's really interesting was Hitler showed up to his house with his military generals. And they sat him down and they say, listen, we need you to enlist yourself into the U.S. military. In exchange, what you do, we will keep your wife or your girlfriend, your fiance, whatever she is, alive. If you don't, we'll kill her in front of you, then we'll kill you. So obviously you can see that he didn't have a choice. And remember, this is somebody who wasn't involved in German politics at all, which kind of stayed a very quiet life, didn't protest, didn't do anything, was just quiet. What's interesting about all this, though, is that when I was talking to him, he was telling me more about the story. And when Hitler came to him, he said, okay, I'm going to do it because I want to be able to keep her safe. I want her alive because I love her. But everybody knows when you make a deal with the devil, it's not always going to end up in a good way anyway. So he did it with the intention to save her because love was the main driving force here. The love was the main intention. He didn't know what was going to happen after. What he did not know, after he had less than signed his life away, he was taken away. What he did not know was right after he signed it, they killed her. She was dead on arrival. And I saw her. She was very skinny girl. She was wearing like a conservative dress, kind of like up to her right past her knees, but a little higher than her ankles. So she was there. She was there, and she was wearing blue and white little dress, but she was skinny. And I kept seeing her underneath the floorboard, which telling me that she might have been Jewish, but she was definitely hiding. But they found her and they killed her. But he didn't know that. He didn't know that, and they sent him to a concentration camp. But not to be a part of it, but to patrol it and to ensure that it operates. He didn't understand the intention of what was going to take place in that camp. But what he did know was that he knew that he was saving her. At least he thought so. So I go to him, I understand what's happened. He's been misled, misguided. But he's not the only one that's been there. Many people have been here all through history. But it is interesting when you think about it from a different perspective, a different point of view, and different lens. When I started to speak to him more and I said, okay, I understand what's happening, I understand what happened. He was mad not because of them killing his girlfriend, but because of what they made him do. And he still lost his girl. And he did a lot of bad things in the name of saving her. So I said, okay, I understand, because I took it from a different perspective. I was not biased. I didn't try to judge him. I tried to take it from an open point of view. I understood what was happening. This is a person who doesn't have anything to look past on. This is not somebody who had any sort of historical significance to look past and say, oh, this is what's happening, I'm not going to do that. Germany was the first one to really, really do some nasty stuff. We, in the modern world in 2025, we have what happened in Germany as a historical reference for what not to do. But he himself didn't. So how could he be blamed? So what happened was I said, okay, I'm going to take you into the light. I'm going to try and find a way. And in this point, everybody had a different way of moving on into the light. But this was his setup. It was a capital T, right? And in the capital T it looked like almost like a spaceship, if you will. It was a spaceship. And it was really interesting because as we were walking, right, we were walking up this hallway, this corridor. He was on my right side, on my right hand. And on my right hand, as we start to walk up, right, I was telling him, and I was actually learning as we were walking up. On the left side here, in this section here, I was told that that was called spiritual suicide. And essentially, spiritual suicide is where you step outside into this galaxy, this void, and erase you from every single timeline, which means you never existed. Known as spiritual suicide. But as we were walking, this is the shape of a capital T. We had two doors here. The first door was an orange fog, and the second door was a blue fog. In the first door, I wasn't able to take a quick look in because I was not allowed to see what was in there. But each door, it gets locked by a bank vault. And in his door, he and I kept saying, she's waiting for you. She wants to see you. She's there. She understands you. His biggest fear was, at least what he told me, was that he didn't want her to see for what he had become. That he would not be deserving of love. That she won't love him for who he is. But not realizing that she understood what he did and why he did it. Because he did it with the intention of love, not with the intention to hurt. Now remember, this guy never actually committed the atrocities of what happened in the concentration camp because he died around 1939 or somewhere earlier, 1936, somewhere within that time frame, prior to the initiation of a war, the very start of war in Poland. So he died around that point, so well before it's begun, but he was the start and the reason why concentration camps were built. Well, not sure if he was the reason for them being built, but he might have initiated or helped start programs, not knowing what they were intentionally being used for. But he so blamed himself because he helped it in some way, not knowing what the ramifications was. She waited for him. Most people don't wait for you after you die. But in this particular case, in order for him to pass into the light, he needed to be able to confront her and be able to see her and be able to say he's sorry and that he loves her and whatnot. And for him to feel a sense of love and happiness. So as we were walking down this corridor and we were explaining the two here, I was showing him the spiritual suicide, which is this little black dot here. And I was showing him the two doors. In this door here, there was this girl, his girlfriend, right? She was dressed the same way that she died. But she was beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous girl. And she was in this blue fog right here. She was in this blue fog. But I remember holding him, and all of a sudden I explained it to him, but he ran away from me. I couldn't find him. So I only find out that he's running to commit suicide. Because he, again, in a way, could not deal with the fact of the thing that he did. He blamed himself for what took place in Germany, not realizing that that wasn't his fault, that he had no choice. It was just bad place, wrong place, wrong time. Like, that's all that it was. And he did it with the intention of love. And because of that, I was able to grab him before he committed suicide and erased himself in the timeline. I pushed him into the blue door with this fog, and there he held his girlfriend, his fiancée, whatever she was. He held her, and she felt immense love and happiness and safety, and she loved him. She told him that she understood what he did, but he did with the intention of love, not to hurt. And so, with that said, with all this that happened, I closed the bank vault, and there he was saved. Now there is a second part to what happened and the involvement of other military members and those of high governmental positions coming in to our reading with my client. But in essence, that was the story. That was the story of understanding that, when you do dark things with bad intentions, you are stuck in purgatory. But if you do things with good intention, there will come a timeline or come a time where you will be able to go into the light because of what your intentions were. Because they were of the light, they were good, they were not intention of bad. But the thing is, the moral of the story is that I understand that if you are forced to do these things because you have no choice, then just understand there's the consequences, but in the end, you might be saved. But remember, one thing as well is that just because this guy was saved, he had nothing to look back on. He had nothing to compare his historical significance to. But you yourself, in 2025, you have a comparison to make. I don't know if this could be said the same for you. I can say this could be the same for him, but not for you. We don't know that yet. That's something that is yet to be determined. But it is very interesting because not any Nazi went through this. All of them went into the orange door. At least I think so. But none of them ever went into the blue door. And I know that for certain, except him. Because he himself was not a Nazi, who was an ordinary person who was at the wrong place at the wrong time. So that is the story of how a Nazi fell in love and how they went into the light. Anyway, guys, I hope you guys liked today's video. I hope you like and subscribe. Don't forget to let me know in the comment section below what you think. If it's a little bit different, I know I've been talking about wanting to do this video for quite some time in regard to the love story of the Nazi and the girl. But really, again, really interesting, very fascinating stuff. So I do hope you guys like it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. I'll see you all the next time. Until then, peace out. I love you.